What's going on, everyone? It's another Thursday in college baseball season, which means it's time to go down and look at a couple of the series I'm excited for. But I personally love the third weekend in college baseball. It's the weekend where you really see teams kind of coming together. They found out, all right, where each piece going to fit kind of in the first two weekends. Obviously, still a lot of question marks about what lineups are going to look like. But this is the weekend where you really start to get a good idea of where the offensive production is going to come from, who's going to be big on the mound for teams. And then on top of that, weekend three in college baseball, it's always packed with a bunch of rivalry series, which, it's not in conference rivalries, but personally, I love the in state rivalries. So looking at this weekend slate, the first series that really jumps off the page is going to be Clemson versus South Carolina. Now, much like ECU and UNC last weekend, this is going to be one of those divorced parents series where you get one game at each location and then at a neutral site. Now, I personally love this matchup for a number of reasons, but personally, it's one of my favorite in-state rivalries. It feels like these are two fan bases that are just always at each other's necks. And with South Carolina where it's at right now, baseball-wise, it's a weekend where, they could use a couple of wins. Clemson will be heading into this weekend after sweeping Bryant over last weekend, and then in their midweek, they beat Presbyterian on Tuesday 6-2. Aiden Kanak was back and looking just exceptional again on Friday night. He went 5 innings, allowing only 1 hit and 1 unearned run, while working around 2 walks and racking up 8 strikeouts against Bryant. So he was just on point. The bats I'm looking forward to this weekend, we got 2 guys who can absolutely crush it for Clemson. And that's Nate Savoy, who he's going to either be designated hitter, he can catch a little bit, but he's also found home in left field for the Tigers. But he's currently hitting .467 with 2 triples, 3 home runs, and 11 RBIs. This kid's just an absolutely electric ball player. He's got a great arm on him too, so keep an eye out for him to pick up some outfield assists on defense as well. Then another bat you're going to want to keep your eye on for Clemson is going to be Jacob Gerald, their catcher, who's hitting .292 on this season with 1 double and 4 home runs while driving in 12 RBI for the Tigers. And it feels like each of his home runs has come at a really clutch time for the Tigers too. It's never really like in the garbage time hours of the game, so definitely a guy who's got that clutch factor. For South Carolina, there are a lot of balls up in the air. This is a team that is just packed with talent. Just for whatever reason, it has not been clicking. So I'm really hoping they can walk away with a win this weekend just because it feels like their fan base really needs it. So last weekend, they beat Air Force and Navy, but lost to Army in their salute to service weekend. And then in their midweek, they lost to Queens of Charlotte. They're at a rough spot as a program right now, but again, they have a ton of talent and they have a lot of the resources there to get things back on track. So hopefully this will be a good weekend for them to do that. On Friday night, we saw Riley Goodman start for them. He went 3.2 innings pitched while racking up 3 strikeouts, but also surrendering 3 earned runs and walking 4 batters. So if he can get his command under control, he's the type of guy who could go deep in the ball games. And then at the plate for South Carolina, the first guy I want to highlight is going to be catcher Talmadge LaCroix. I feel like I've been talking about this guy every year since I graduated, and he's just a super talented athlete. But right now, he's starting off the season hotter than ever. He's hitting .471 with 3 doubles, 2 home runs, and 7 RBIs. And then shortstop KJ Scobie is another guy who's coming off of a really hot start. He's hitting .341 with 3 doubles, 2 home runs, and 7 RBIs. So both 2 bats I'd expect to make an impact this weekend. Now, a little programming note before we get into this series. All the research was done for this episode on Wednesday night, so there were still some games going on and still some series that needed to be completed. So all these numbers, the stats might look a little different right now, but all things considered, these are the guys you're going to want to be paying attention to. So the next series I'm excited about is going to be Florida. The Florida Gators taking on the Miami Hurricanes down in Coral Gables, which, that's an environment where when I was playing at UMBC and we went to Miami, it was a super hostile environment, and we were just a bunch of random people, just a bunch of kids trying our best. So, in-state rivalry, I feel like that's going to be an even more elevated weekend series. Starting things off, looking at Florida's side of things, they're coming off a weekend where they swept Kennesaw State last weekend, and they beat FIU in Tuesday and Wednesday's midweeks. Now, last Friday night, Liam Peterson looked incredible for the Gators. He went 5 1/3 shutout innings pitched while racking up 12 strikeouts, finishing just one strikeout shy of his career record. Now at the plate, two guys you're going to want to keep your eye on for the Gators is going to be designated hitter Brendan Lawson. He's currently hitting .469 on the season with 3 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, and 19 RBIs, which is just a ludicrous amount to have at this point in the season. And the next guy I'm most excited for this series for is going to be Blake Sear. He started his college baseball career off at Miami. I remember the first time this series happened, he hit a home run against the Gators in Gainesville, threw up the U round in third base, electric moment, and then the next season he was playing for the U of F, which, you love to see it. Currently, Blake is on a tear. The left fielder is hitting .405 with 3 doubles and 3 home runs while driving in 10 RBI. Now, for Miami's side of things, they're coming off a weekend where they swept Lafayette, and then in their midweek, they beat FAU 11-7. On the mound on Friday night, I'm really excited for this matchup between Liam Peterson and AJ Siskar for Miami. Last weekend, AJ earned the win after allowing just 2 runs and 5 hits over 6 innings pitched, where he racked up 9 strikeouts, tying his single-game career high. So I think the matchup between him and Liam Peterson is going to be a really fun one to watch. From the bat side of things, one bat on Miami that will stick out like a sore thumb is going to be left fielder Dylan Dubovic. He's currently hitting .846 on the season. .846, that's not an error. That's how the math adds up, and I'm not even good at math. He has 3 doubles, 3 home runs, and 11 RBI on the young season. And then another guy you're going to want to keep your eye out for is going to be third baseman Daniel Cuvée, who's currently hitting .323 with 2 doubles, 6 home runs, and 15 RBI on the season. This is one of those matchups where, again, it's 2 teams that are at each other's throats in a battle between Alligators and Hurricanes. I'm not really sure which one's going to win. Alligators are low to the ground. It might be hard to pick them up off the ground, but what is an alligator going to do? Bite the wind? Now, the next series I'm looking forward to is sometimes referred to as the War on I-4, which is going to be the USF Bulls coming to Orlando to take on University of Central Florida's Knights. Now, USF is currently 7-2 on the season, where UCF is currently 4-3. This one isn't necessarily as big of a rivalry as some of the other series we've covered, but to get to UCF or to get to USF, if you're taking those roads, I am smack in between the 2 of those. So this one, though I know no one on the team, it feels personal. And also, if you've ever been on the road, I-4, you know it's just the worst place in the world. If there were an actual war on I-4, it's just the day-to-day grind. It's a war every day on I-4. But looking at it, last weekend, USF swept Georgia Southern, outscoring them 42-14. Then, because college baseball is weird, they dropped their midweek to Bethune-Cookman 3-4. On Friday, the Bulls started Edwin Alcia. He pitched 6 innings while recording 5 strikeouts, giving up 7 hits, 6 runs, and 1 walk. But again, this was one of those blowout wins where he's just protecting their bullpen. Good outing in my mind. Now, 2 guys you'll want to watch at the plate for the Bulls, starting things off with center fielder Ryan Pruitt. He's currently hitting .387 with 2 doubles, 1 triple, 1 home run, and 11 RBIs. You'll also want to keep an eye out for Jake Kulikowski, their left fielder, who's currently hitting .344 with 4 doubles, 1 home run, and 9 RBI. Now, last weekend, UCF went 1-2 at the Jacks Classic, picking up a 4-2 win over Notre Dame in extra innings, which was electric. But they did lose games against both Indiana and LSU, 2 really good baseball programs, so I'm not losing sleep over that. They didn't play a midweek this week because their game against Jacksonville did get postponed. But last Friday night, they started Braden Smith, who went 5.2 innings in which he only surrendered 2 runs while picking up 4 strikeouts and walking no one. So that's a pitcher I want to watch. I hate watching walks. So if I'm watching Braden Smith, I'm not going to see many of them. That's a good weekend in my book. Now at the plate, one guy you're going to want to keep your eye on for the Knights is going to be right fielder Andrew Williamson. He's currently hitting .333 on the season with a double, 2 triples, which that's more impressive than 2 home runs in my mind because that's both power and speed. So he's got those 2 triples, a home run, and 7 RBIs. And then you'll also want to keep your eye out for Zach Skinner. He's their catcher, who's currently hitting .292 with 2 doubles, a triple of his own, which you don't see many catchers hitting triples, a home run, and 7 RBIs. So I think this will make for a really good series, and hopefully it won't cause too much traffic on I-4 because I would like to get places this weekend. And if there's traffic there, I can't. So don't actually have a war on I-4. It's already bad enough. Now for the next two, we got two bigger tournaments happening in college baseball this weekend. So we're going to speed through these names. It's going to be kind of like before you would go in for a history test and you know, run into one of your smart friends and be like, hey, what do I need to know? That's what this is going to be like. So I'm just going to run over some of the key players. So starting things off, we have the Amegy Bank Series down at Globe Life for weekend 3, which this one's going to be on Flow Sports, which a lot of people have been trashing Flow Sports. I've gotten well worth my money this month. It's all right. The subscription's already canceled. I got the 1 month subscription. You cancel it, whatever. But I've watched about 20 college baseball games. I've watched a few car races, which I didn't mean to, but I did. Those are on Flow Sports. Who wouldn't know? I wouldn't have. Thank you for that, college baseball. But this weekend, we're going to see a lot of talented teams down at Globe Life. Starting off, we're going to have Arizona State, who's off to a really hot start to start the season. They are 8-1 on the season. They swept St. John's last week while splitting a midweek series with Oklahoma this week. So taking a win from them is not easily done. But for Arizona State, you're going to want to keep your eye on first baseman Landon Harrison. He's currently hitting .412 on the season with 5 doubles, 3 home runs, and 16 RBIs. Then you'll also want to keep your eye out for designated hitter New Contradas. He's currently hitting .394 with 2 doubles, 4 home runs, and 15 RBI. So between the two of these bats, they have 31 RBI, which is a ludicrous number of RBIs. So definitely a team you're going to want to keep your eye out for. The next team that'll also be down there is going to be the Mississippi State Bulldogs, coached by my friend Brian O'Connor. And they're 9-0 to start the season, which is very impressive. They're coming off a weekend where they swept Delaware. Two bats you'll want to keep your eye on for the Bulldogs. First of all, you're going to want to know about third baseman Ace Reese. If you don't know about him, get out from under the rock. He's a really good baseball player. He's currently hitting .514 on the season with 8 doubles and 3 home runs, collecting 15 RBI. And then you'll also want to keep your eye out for first baseman and outfielder Blake Beavis, who's currently hitting .429 with 1 double and 2 home runs on the young season. So again, top to bottom, this Mississippi State lineup has guys who mash. So I think they're going to have a lot of fun down at Globe Life this weekend. The next team I want to talk about is going to be the Tennessee Volunteers, who are currently 6-2 on the season after dropping a series to Kent State last weekend, where they only won 1 game, which again, a lot of people freaked out about this. Kent State's a very good team. Again, not a team to sleep on. Not really concerned about those losses for Tennessee. Two bats you're going to want to keep your eye on. You're going to want to keep your eye out for left fielder, designated hitter, and sometimes pitcher Blaine Brown. He's a Rice transfer who's currently hitting .303 for the Vols while belting 2 doubles, 4 home runs, and driving in 10 RBI. And then on the mound, he's only got 2 innings pitched, but he hasn't surrendered a run, and he's picked up 5 strikeouts in those 2 innings while working a fastball 96 to 97. And he's also got an outfield assist on the season. Just a lot of fun things to watch out of Blaine Brown. And then you'll also want to keep your eye out for center fielder Jay Abernathy, who he's coming off a freshman season where he hit .282 in the SEC, which is not easily done, and he's off to a really hot start this year, currently hitting .407 with 3 doubles, a triple, and a home run. So again, this will be a good weekend, of course, a good test for the Tennessee Volunteers, but also a good weekend for them to really get back on track and be that team we know they can be. Now, Texas A&M is coming down to Globe Life, 8-0 on the season. They're coming off a weekend where they swept Penn, and to be honest, the offense, it didn't look as good as we've seen them be in the past against Penn. But again, Penn's pitching staff's pretty decent, and we could have seen this Aggie lineup. Maybe they're saving all their offense and their home runs for down at Globe Life because, again, way cooler to hit home runs at a big league park. No offense to Olson. It seems like a cool place to hit home runs as well. But bigger field makes for better Instagrams and things like that. So excited for these guys to get out there. In terms of bats you're going to want to watch, you're going to want to watch right fielder Caden Sorrell, who's currently .429 on the season with 5 home runs and 16 RBI. And then designated hitter Wesley Jordan is another guy who's really jumping off the stat sheet this year. He's hitting .474 with 3 doubles and 2 home runs for the Aggies. So I'm hoping to see their offense really uncork this weekend. Now, another team everybody has their eyes on this season is going to be UCLA. Last weekend, they swept TCU and then dropped their midweek game to San Diego State. It was a really good game, really well played by the Aztecs. So not one I'm losing sleep over if I'm the Bruins. They're currently 6-2 on the season, and offensively, they're one of the most talented lineups in the nation. It was hard to just pick two guys to talk about, but when you're looking at the Bruins lineup, two guys that are immediately going to stand out. First of all, you have shortstop Rock Chalowski, who he's currently the #1 overall projected pick in the 2026 draft, and he's done nothing but prove why that's the case this season. He's currently hitting .393 with 3 doubles, 6 home runs, and 12 RBI. And then outfielder Will Gasparino, the Texas transfer, has felt right at home at UCLA. He's currently hitting .391 with 1 double and 6 home runs while knocking in 15 RBI. Now, kind of the wild card in this series, the ACC team making their way down to Globe Life is going to be Virginia Tech. And now the Hokies are off to a really hot start for the season. They're 7-1. And they lost their Friday night game to Rutgers where they got run ruled, but they bounced back really strong, winning on Saturday and Sunday. Right fielder Sam Grube is a guy you'll want to keep your eye out for. He's hitting .444 with 4 doubles and 2 home runs and 8 RBIs on the season. And then freshman Ethan Ball, the second baseman, has been doing nothing but balling out for the Hokies. Currently hitting .379 with a double, 2 home runs, and 6 RBI. But he's on an 8-game hitting streak, and he also had a walk-off home run against Rutgers. So again, the guy who, the moment's not too big for him, he's excited to play, and he's hit the ground running in his freshman season. All right, now for our last tournament, we're going to talk about the Bruce Bolt College Classic taking place in Houston. And what I love about this one is, first of all, the games are going to be streamed for free on the Astros YouTube. It's sick when parks are just like, hey, look, we have all these big league cameras and production here. We might as well use it and for free. A lot of reasons to be excited for this one. So on Friday night, we got a ton of loaded matchups. First of all, on Friday, we're going to have Ohio State taking on UTSA. Ohio State's currently 5-2 on the season. They lost 2 to LA Tech, and then 1-2 against Memphis in the Grind City Classic last weekend. And then UTSA is coming to Houston 7-1 on the season, sweeping DBU last weekend. So I'm excited for their matchup. Then the next matchup on Friday is going to be Baylor versus Ole Miss. Baylor's coming into this one 5-3 on the season, losing all 3 games at Round Rock last weekend, but that's against really good competition. And then Ole Miss is coming in at 9-0. They're coming off a sweep of Missouri State, which they're a really good baseball program, so being able to sweep them is not easily done. And then the last matchup of Friday is going to be Coastal Carolina taking on the Texas Longhorns. Coastal's coming into this one 6-2 on the season. They beat VCU twice but lost to Illinois last weekend. And then Texas is 8-0, coming off of a sweep against Michigan State last weekend. For Texas, 2 guys you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to keep your eye out for center fielder Aiden Robbins. He hit for the cycle against Michigan State last weekend, and he's currently .419 on the season with 3 doubles, a triple, 3 home runs, and 11 RBI. The Seton Hall transfer has immediately found his stride with the Longhorns. And then second baseman Ethan Mendoza is another guy who's really come to his own this season. He's hitting .448 with a double and 3 home runs while knocking in 10 RBI for the Longhorns. So definitely a loaded lineup and a lot of guys you're going to want to watch there. Now on the Coastal Carolina side of things, I know fans are a little bit shaken up as they're down a few pitchers, notably Cam Flukie, Hayden Johnson, Dominic Carbone, and Ryan Lynch, who, guys who had a lot of meaningful innings for them last season. But I'm really excited to see who's going to step up on the mound for the Chanticleers. At the plate, designated hitter Trace Mazan is a guy you'll want to keep your eye on. He's currently hitting .371 with 2 doubles, a triple, 2 home runs, and 10 RBI for the Chants. And then Dean Mijos in center field is another guy who's just absolutely electric when he's out there playing. He'll make highlight reel plays, and then at the plate, he's hitting .424 with 2 doubles, a home run, 7 RBI, and 14 hits already, just 3 weeks into, just 2 completed weeks into the season, which, not easily done. Now, 2 bats you'll want to keep your eye on for the UTSA Roadrunners. First of all, you're going to want to keep your eye out for third baseman Josh Arquette. He's hitting .500 on the season with 3 doubles, a triple, a home run, and 13 RBIs. He has a really cool triple celebration where he flaps like this really hard. I'm a big fan of that thing. Also, you'll want to keep your eye on Roadrunner center fielder Christian Hallmark. He's hitting 438 on the season with a home run, 10 RBIs, and 7 walks already. So he's got great plate discipline, and when it's in the zone, he's more likely than not going to hit it. For Ole Miss, you got some guys who are absolutely mashing right now. Starting off, you have third baseman Judd Utermark. He's hitting 355 with 6 home runs, 13 RBI, and 2 doubles. And then Clemson transfer left fielder Tristan Becerra has just really gotten off to a hot start for the Rebels. He's hitting 485 with 16 RBIs, 3 home runs, and 3 doubles. So 2 guys who can just absolutely mash for the Rebels there. On Baylor, 2 guys you want to keep your eye out for. First of all, you're going to want to watch first baseman Tice Armstrong. Now, if you haven't been living under a rock, Tice is the gentleman who decided to hit 3 grand slams in one game. He's currently hitting 323 on the season with 4 home runs, 2 doubles, and 19 RBI. The scorecard from his 3 Grand Slam game was actually sent to Cooperstown to be displayed in the Baseball Hall of Fame forever now, which is just an incredible accomplishment. You really don't see college baseball guys in the Hall of Fame that often. And then Travis Sanders, their shortstop, is another guy who's been really productive offensively for the Bears. He's currently hitting 448 with 4 doubles, a triple, and 13 hits, while racking up 5 of those for extra bases. Now, on the Ohio State side of things, 2 guys you'll want to watch, of course, is going to be designated hitter Mason Eckelman. He's currently hitting 346 with 2 home runs, a triple, and 10 RBI on the season for Coach Hare up there in Ohio State. And then shortstop Lee Ellis is another guy who's been really productive for the Buckeyes. He's got a double, a triple, a home run, and 7 RBI. And also, most notably, I'm really rooting for Ohio State this weekend to just go back home 3-0 from this one, because if they do get a sweep on the weekend, Coach Hare buys them milkshakes. And I think sweepshakes, one, that's a fun word to say, but more importantly, as a baseball player who was 285 pounds at one point in his playing career, I would have thrown 110 miles an hour if I knew a cookies and cream shake was on the way. So just a little bit of extra motivation there, but all things considered, I think this is going to be a great slate of college baseball, not just at this tournament, at the Bruce Bolt College Baseball Classic, but just around the nation. So I think it'll be a really fun one. That's all I got for this episode, but make sure to tune in every Thursday. That way I can give you guys my college baseball cram session and we can get prepared for the best matchups in the nation.